Hello and welcome back to my channel, Teresa's Crafty Cabana. You may remember I had made some jelly prints of these flamingos, and so now I made something with the flamingos, this cute little mini book, and I'm going to show you how I made it. So to start out with, I used some tan colored cardstock. You could use any color that you like. I cut it in half vertically or lengthwise, 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock, and then I folded them in half. I cut it in half and then folded each of those in half. So I came up with 4.25, 4.25 by 3 3/4, and that created a page that was 3 3/4 and 2 1/8, I believe. And then to make this mini album, it's a I saw this on a short. Someone had made it, so I didn't have any instructions for how to make this little book, but I thought it was pretty neat how it went together. So what it is you accordion fold just a long piece here, and each of these little pieces are going to create the binding for the book. So I just went ahead and did about 3/4 of an inch and just kind of folded it back and forth. And this told me how many pages I was going to get. I was going to be able to get 5 pages from this. And you do have to make sure that you get an entire fold per page. So if it's a half fold, it won't work. So how this works is I take my little pages that I had made and had folded in half, and then I lined up the accordion fold in the center, or at least as close to the center as I was eyeballing it. You could be precise and measure the top and the bottom. Mine was a little bit not quite centered, but it didn't matter to me. Then I went with my knife, my craft knife, and I just kind of sliced down the side of the binding, or where the fold is, and then I just did a little slice to cut out that little tiny rectangle piece. And now I have a nice size opening here. And I'm just going to make sure that my little flap will fit in here. Just to make sure it's wide enough. And it does fit in there nicely. And so you can see this is how the binding is going to go together. And I have to cut this little slit in the binding of the pages for all of my pages. And I'm going to have 5 pages total. To make my next page, I just lined it up on top of the first page and used that as my reference so that all of my pages would be lined up evenly. And then did the same thing where I just cut around each side of the fold. And then cut out the rectangle. And this one works great as well. So I just did that to all of my pages. These are the papers that I had jelly printed that I'm going to be using in this little mini book. Not all of the pages, but these are the pages that I will be using from this pile here. I went ahead and put most of my pages together, and then I'll show you on this last page, or the last 2 pages, how I put these together. So I slipped the little accordion fold in the page, and I made sure the page was lined up correctly. And how I saw the little video of how they assembled it, they put like a little piece of paper in between to secure it. But I'm going to secure mine just a little bit different, and I'll show you how we'll do mine. So this would work. You just slide a piece that's thin enough to fit inside there, and that would secure it. But the reason I didn't secure mine like this is I really liked the design of my Gelli print, and I felt like it was maybe missing a lot of the Gelli print by being stuck inside. So what I decided to do instead was take 2 of them, because I had a lot of Gelli prints to work with, and I decided to glue them to the outside of this piece. And I wanted a little pocket, so I put glue all the way on the back of one of these little pieces. I lined it up with that center piece. And there's glue in the center, and then there's also glue on the outside, those 2 flaps on the outside. So I just glued the top piece to those 2 flaps, and then this part in the center will give me a pocket where I did not have glue. And it's just a little place to tuck in a little extra something. At the time, I was still figuring out what I wanted to put in the pocket, but it would work. So I'll do the same thing for all of my pages. And you can see that's also how it's going to be secured. I cut away the extra from my side flap, and that both sides of those I will just glue to the front and back of this little book, and that'll hold it secure. One final thing that I'm going to do is create additional pockets by gluing my pages together. So in between each page, there's this opening. You could leave these as additional pages, but I decided to make little pockets out of mine. So I just added glue to 3 sides, leaving the center open for my pocket. So now I'll have 2 pockets for my pages. The ones that the bigger pocket, I could fit a larger piece, and then the little pockets in the center. So I just went ahead and glued up all of those pages to make the little pockets. It made 4 pockets. The smaller pockets are 5 because it's 1 per page. And then to decorate my pages, I took my Gelli prints, which I had printed on copy paper, and I used a ruler. This is just a metal ruler that I got from Dollar Tree, and I just used that to give me some not so perfect edges, the torn look, but they're pretty straight, so it isn't as bad as just hand tearing. And here I just measured by eyeballing it to see how much of a border I wanted on my page. Then I would fold it where I wanted to tear it. And then I could take that fold, put it under my ruler, hold my ruler tight, and just tear it away. And so this is the size that I wanted. And then I just repeated that for the other side. Now, because each of my flamingos are a pink color, I took all of my green and blue backgrounds to fill my pages. I didn't want the flamingos to get lost. To decorate my pages a little bit more, I went ahead and added this walnut stain distress ink all the way around the border of my pages. And my center jelly prints that I had used to decorate the little centerpiece there, they were a very bright white, and I was kind of going with a little more of a brown color. So I did end up adding some of my distress ink to the center parts as well. These are some stickers I had gotten at Hobby Lobby, and these are vinyl stickers here, these larger ones, and then the smaller ones are clear stickers. The vinyl ones are see-through as well, but I didn't realize it as I was kind of playing around with these. But I knew I wanted to put them on my page, and in order to get them to fit, I did have to cut them in half. And here I'm just working on the layout of my little page, just to make sure it all fits. So you can see that's a very bright white on that pocket. Then I also took some white paper and cut out these they're just little tags from a Christmas die cut set. I just took the tag part, and then I cut the tag so that it would fit inside this little pocket. And then my idea was to put a flamingo on each side. And that way, from either direction, you can see the flamingo. And it makes it look like the flamingo is kind of sticking out of the page. So to decorate this little tag, I took the clear sticker, cut that one in half, used one side for the front and one side for the back. A little bit of it did hang over the edge, and I'll just trim those off at the end. Now this was the first little tag that I had done. I learned from this one what I wanted to do first on my next tags. First, I did want to add the distress ink around the borders. You can't really add distress ink over a clear sticker because it won't stay. It's a porous surface. And then I added some gold to the border of this little tag. So for my next ones, I did that all before I glued the sticker on, or adhered the sticker, or glued the flamingo on. So even at this point, I realized I wanted to do a little more to the tag, so I pulled that little flamingo off before it dried and added my distress ink. And I did that to both sides. And now I'll glue my little flamingo back on. And I'm just making it so that his tail covers the hole. Then I added glue to the back side of the flamingo so that I can add the other flamingo on top. And I just line it up with my hands, making sure that there's no white space. And it fits in there nicely, and the flamingo closes away and doesn't stick out. So then for the sticker, again, this is the final sticker that's transparent. It kind of blended into the background. So what I did was put it back on my backing here, and I took a little bit of gesso just white gesso and a dry brush. And I just dry brushed a little bit of that background so that more of the design of the final piece would show through. The tricky part for me with this is that I was completely covering up my Gelli printed background. So I only did the gesso on this one page. The rest of my pages, I just let the background show through the stickers a little bit, and I liked that just as well. It just didn't stand out as much as with the white gesso. But that's just to give you an idea of what it might look like with or without it. And then I just lined up my sticker using the seam in the center of the page as my guide. It almost makes it look like feathers for this flamingo, kind of like a peacock. And again, just lining it up with the first part of the sticker. Right along the seam. And this is what the page is looking like. And it did need a little something, a little shininess. So this is where I pulled out some gold. I started with this golden fluid acrylic, and it was the gold color, iridescent gold, and a fine liner paintbrush. I just painted in some of the background sticker just to get a little more movement on the page and to kind of draw the eye to the sticker. Just tracing around some of the lines here. So I finished that on both sides. And then I decided to add a little bit of the gold paint along the border of the tag. And this is where it would be easier to do if I hadn't glued the flamingo down or the sticker down yet. So I will let that dry before I stick it in its little pocket. And since I still had my gold out, I went ahead and just outlined the border of my Gelli print against the page, just to get the page to pop out a little bit more. And I took some more of that gold paint that was still on my little palette here, and I just did a little bit of design in the inside or the white area of my centerpiece. And so this is what my finished page looks like. Got the flamingo in the center, got the little bit of gesso, the gold, and now I'm going to repeat this process for the rest of my pages. I did take a little break, and so the rest of these pages I did at a different time than that first page. So my technique was just a little bit different. I basically went ahead and measured out the page again, just like I had the first one. But when I was cutting this page, I realized I had cut it the wrong way. And so I was only able to get 3 pages out of this one when with the first one I was able to get 4. So I kind of messed up on this one, but I was at least able to get 2 pages out of this. Okay, so I have this extra page. Doesn't really fit because I needed a double spread for each of my pages. So for the next one, I cut it up a little bit differently. I just cut away the extra white part on the top and the bottom. And then I cut away the white on one side. Here I'm measuring to see if I can get 2 out of this one page, and I can. So I folded it in half, and then I tore it in half. And now I'll be able to get 2 pages from each of these 2 pieces. And then that had a little bit left over, but again I was able to get a lot more pages doing it this way. And so this is how I cut up the rest of the pages for the book. Then for my cover, I took another one of my Gelli prints that I had used my ruler to tear down just to get it to the right size. And I just wrapped it around my book and did a little tear just so that I knew where I needed to rip it at. And I'm lining it up on the other side of the ruler to try to get it to be a straight cut. Alright, so that's my cover that I'll set aside and finish up later. For my pages, I did go ahead and add some distressed ink, the walnut stain distress ink, around each of the pages and the center pieces, just so they weren't so bright white. And then I did the distress ink around the little tags on the front and the back. And instead of using my gold paint, I had a gold paint pen, which is a little bit easier just to move the project along. And I just used that to do all my gold outlining and detail work. Then I used my gold pen to border or outline my pages and to outline my tag on both sides. Then I took my sticker, my clear sticker, cut it in half, and did the same thing as I did earlier and just put one half on one side and the other half on the other. And I just trimmed away the excess. Glued my flamingo on over the hole. And then just made sure it lined up nicely. I had done these little tags that I cut out. They were just on white cardstock. This was my gold pen that I used to do a little bit of the border on here. I felt like each of the pages needed something, so I pulled out my stamps. These are just from Dollar Tree. There's a lot of words on here, so I thought this would be nice to see which words I could get to fit that kind of go with the theme of the book. So I picked out hello and sunshine on this one and the hi. And then on this other, this is a newer stamp set at Dollar Tree. Fairly recently I got this one. It's very cool. I picked out enjoy and this little ticket that I thought would fit, and the little love stamp. So I just used my black VersaFine Onyx black ink to stamp out the words. Now on this one, the stamping didn't work out, so I did it again on another one of them. And since I ruined that one, I just decided to cut some of these in half to give me more to work with. The little ticket, I just stamped that one inside. It was long and tall, so it fit in there nicely. And to fill in the bottom space, I used the hi. And then I cut some of the smaller ones in half. So I just needed 5 of them. Here I'm just quickly going through, putting my stickers down after I'd cut them in half, using my gold pen to do a little bit of detail work on them. Lined my pages and did the gold detail work to the center. And you can see here I didn't have any of the gesso in the background, so it does blend in more, but I also don't lose as much of that background either. So I thought it turned out fine. And by putting the gold over the top of it, it really helps those images pop out a little bit. For my cover, I needed it to have some kind of a title. So this is another Dollar Tree stamp set for summer. So I just used my washi tape to cover up half of the word. And I used leftover of my background and wrote SUM for summer, and then the MER will go underneath it. This way it will fit on my cover. It wasn't super dark, so I put some black embossing powder on the top and just melted that, and then it stood out a lot better. For my binding, to cover it up, I took a piece of my khaki colored cardstock and embossed it with this. It's kind of like a leather look, like a faux leather. And then I took my distress ink and just kind of went around the edges and a little bit of the center just to pull out some of that detail. And that will kind of cover up my seam here. I did glue down one part of my page, my book, glued down the other side of my book. It does pop out in the center here, but that's okay. If I don't have it popping out like that, it won't open all the way. So you kind of have to leave it where it will pop out like that in order for the whole book to open or to close. And then I did the same thing. I just put glue on one side of this little binding piece, lined it up. And once that was on there securely, then I just put glue on the other side and closed up the seam. And I just kind of used my fingers to crease it a little bit just so it opens a little more smoothly. Now, as I was doing this, I realized that my crease from my nail really does show onto this little piece of cardstock, so I'd probably not recommend doing that. I was trying to rub it out. I'd say just let the seam naturally do its fold. For the title, I just used some foam tape and put it on top of a piece of white cardstock, just so it would pop from the background. And then I just glued that in the kind of in this top center of my little book. And then to finish my pages, I stuck my little flamingo tag inside the smaller pocket, glued down one of my little sentiment pieces, and then took another jelly print that I had cut up and used that to put in the larger pocket. And these give a nice little tab to each page to make it easy to flip through. And you can see I tapered them so that one is at the top of the tab, then the middle, and then the bottom. And then for the last one, I went back to the top. And here is my completed little book. I think this is just a really fun way to look at my jelly prints, and it has a lot of summer vibes for me. The flamingo, the colors, they're nice and bright. The little pops of gold, and even the little stamps on there. I think it just looks so cute, and I love the cover, how the cover turned out with the little binding piece. I just think it's such a cute little book. So this is my completed project using a lot of my jelly prints for this project. I had a lot of fun just using the variations of blues and greens with the pinks and just trying to get them to work well together. So hope you enjoyed this video, and give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already to my channel. And I will see you in the next video. Happy crafting, y'all.